Hello friends, in the series which we are doing on understanding popular culture, today we'll talk about festivals and fairs. In the earlier lectures on festivals, we talked about the various kinds of festivals which have been celebrated in India, whether they have been the religious festivals or the new kinds of festivals which have been introduced by some of the tourism corporations of the various states. And in that regard, we not only talked about the major festivals of the various kinds of Indian communities from different religious point of view, but we also talked about some of the festivals like Mango Festival, etc., which have also been introduced by some of the corporations or some of the private individuals as well, and how over a period of time these kinds of festivals have been enjoyed by so many people, those who have been participants of such kind of festivals. Also, we have seen that apart from the religious festivals, we also find a number of cultural festivals which have been celebrated, and then we also find the tribal festivals. So today we'll talk about the various kinds of tribal festivals, cultural festivals, as well as we'll talk about certain fairs, that how in the fairs which are being organized in different parts of the country, and these fairs also have a lot of festive spirit as well, and at the same time how they are also able to communicate the important considerations or unique characteristics which are associated with these fairs. In the context of the references, one can refer to the source material from the School of Open Learning, University of Delhi, Carroll E. Henderson, Cultures and the Customs of India. Then Makhan Jha edited Dimensions of Pilgrimage and Anthropological Appraisal. So all these kinds of references one can refer when one is talking about these kinds of fairs and festivals. And as I told you that we'll talk about the cultural festivals and the kind and how they highlight the cultural traditions of our country. And many times we also find that they also reflect the traditional art of India, and various tourism departments, how they have taken initiatives in terms of carrying forward the kinds of festivals which are being celebrated in these states, and how they are very closely related to the issue of culture. And when we talk about these kinds of festival, we find that Phool Walon Ki Sair, flower festival which is being celebrated in Delhi, or the desert festival of Rajasthan, then elephant festival of Kerala, and various kinds of music and dance festivals which are being celebrated across the country. And when you talk about the Phool Walon Ki Sair, so it is a 3-day festival which is celebrated every year in the month of October at Mehroli in Delhi, and this is popular as a flower festival. And the unique feature of this festival is the interreligious bonding, and how Hindus and Muslims, they both celebrate this, and how a procession decorated with the flowers to the shrine of Devi Jogmaya and Dargah of Khwaja Bakhtiyar Kaki. So this is being involved in this particular kind of festival. So the composite culture which is being reflected in celebration of such kind of festivals, as I told you, and how we find that people from different communities, how they respect each other's traditions. For example, Hindus, they offer a chadar decorated with flowers to the shrine of Bakhtiyar Kaki, while the Muslims, they offer a floral pankha fan at Jogmaya temple. And the cultural programs, including the singing and the dancing activities such as the Qawwalis and Kathak, they are also organized. And in the recent years, we have also seen that how the increased participation of the youth is also happening in this kind of a festival. So as we talked about the question of composite culture, that how it is very integral to India as well, that India has so many communities which are living in India, and how such kind of cultural festivals, they reflect the varied shared kind of traditions of India. And we also see, apart from this, a number of times we have also seen that the role of the tourism development corporations in different states, that has also been an important concern. And in that context, we find the elephant festival is very popular, and how it was aimed to attract the foreign tourists, and since then it has become very, very popular among both the foreign as well as the domestic visitors. And we find that this is being celebrated every year for 4 days in January, and it was being promoted by the Kerala Tourism Development Corporation in 1990. And the March of the Elephants, it starts at Trichur and ends at Kovalam, which is the famous beach. And we find that how elephants, they are being decorated with headgear, and the mahots, they bear the colorful dress. And the kind of procession which is live with the drum beats and playing of other musical instruments as well. And we find that during the journey, elephant rides, they are arranged for the tourists, and the traditional folk dances, they are organized at different places. And the other attractions en route include the setting up of the handicraft stalls for shopping, facility of backwater cruise, boat racing, provision of Kerala-style food, display of fireworks, etc. So all the things which create that kind of a festive spirit, all of them, they are being included in this particular festival. And how the backwater cruises or the boat riding, etc., they provide the kind of thrill which is in a way required in such kind of festivals. And we find that this festival has also become very popular in the recent times, and how youth, they are also participating in such kind of festivals. And apart from that, we also see that how in Rajasthan, in Jaisalmer, the desert festival is also celebrated, and it is also a creation of the Rajasthan Tourism Development Corporation, and how it was started in 1979. And it attracts a large number of visitors every year. It is celebrated during the full moon in February, and the highlights of the festival are the desert folk music and Rajasthani dances like dhap, ghormar, moria, chari, gangeen, etc. So all these kinds of dances, etc., all these kinds of usage of the musical instruments, all of them, they have been important in the context of celebration of these festivals. And we find that when this kind of festival is being celebrated in the desert state of Rajasthan, then the most important animal from the point of view of desert is the camel, and how the acrobatics or the races or the decor competitions which are associated with camel and the camel safaris, polo, etc., they also form important attractions of these particular festivals. Then we also find that apart from that, turban tying contests, they are being organized, mustache contests, etc., and with the grand finale ending with the selection of Marushri or the Mr. Desert. And they are the important features of this particular festival. Then we also find that how at different places, various kinds of festivals which are celebrating the music and the dance, they are also being celebrated across India. And in that context, we find that the Mahabalipuram Dance Festival at Mahabalipuram, Bijapur Music Festival at Bijapur, and Khajuraho Festival at Khajuraho, all of them, they are very, very important, and how also over a period of time they have also become very popular. And these music and dance festivals which are being organized at different places, they are trying to reflect the cultural traditions of that particular place. And not only the dresses, the dance style, but at the same time the other features which are associated with these festivals, they also reflect the local traditions of that particular place. Apart from the earlier ones which we talked about, we also find that the Tansen festival at Gwalior or the Konark dance festival at the Konark and Drupad Mela at Varanasi, they are also very, very important. And we find that so many people, they go and attend these festivals, and how they are able to in a way attract a large number of crowd. And apart from that, we also find that handicrafts, etc., they are also handicrafts fairs, etc., they are also organized at these kinds of centers. And when we talk about the various kinds of festivals, whether the Mahabalipuram, Khajuraho and Konark, which are the dance festivals, and where we find that the performances by the leading exponents of the various dance forms such as Bharatanatyam, Kuchipudi, Kathakali, Kathak, Manipuri, and even foreign dances like Balinese, they are organized in the open spaces or the mandaps in the architectural setting of the temple complexes in these regions. And when you talk about the various kinds of festivals, then we cannot in a way not recognize the contributions of Banaras, Gwalior and Bijapur, which have also become very popular in the recent times as well. where the skilled musicians are performing with the instruments like shehnai, sitar, veena, etc. And the classical music concerts, they are also being organized. So we find that when people, they visit such kind of festivals which are very, very popular, and not only the audience is interested in watching those musicians, but also we find that these skilled musicians, they also appreciate by performing in these festivals, how they get associated with these festivals, and how their performances, they are being relished by the spectators or the audience which are going to visit these places. We also find that apart from that, a number of film festivals, they are also being organized, and how films, they have been really very popular in India. And many times we find that not only Hindi and international cinema, but linguistic variations as which are there in India, that India, we have so many regional languages in which films, they are being made. And the film festivals which are held at different places to screen films in the different languages. And films definitely reflect the cultural traits of our society. And we find that the annual film festival is being held at Delhi. Apart from this, we find that the film festivals of the films which are made in foreign languages is also organized annually. So in this way, how the audience gets to see the films which are produced in different parts of the world, how the international film festival provides the kind of exposure which is being needed for India, and at the same time how Indian films, they are also participating in the festivals which are organized in different parts of the world. So in this way, some kind of a cultural exchange or communication is taking place, and because of which we find that the craft of making films, it also gets enriched, not only in terms of the themes, but also in the context of the treatment which is being given to these kinds of crafts. So definitely film as a point where we find that some kind of a cultural exchange is taking place has definitely become very important from the point of view of India, because India is one of the countries which is producing the largest number of films. And these films, they are being made in different languages of India, whether the important industries of the south, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and Malayalam, or in the east we find the Bengali film industry. So all these kinds of film industries, and in Maharashtra we have the Marathi film industry, and all these industries, definitely they are contributing to the cultural space of India. And apart from that, we also see that a number of tribal festivals, they are also being organized at different places, and which is being done by the different tribes, and they also reflect the tribal culture, and it helps to revive and preserve the traditional art forms as well. And we find they have a lot of potential in that sense of attracting the large number of tourists and enable them to watch and learn tribal culture. And the tourist department or the development corporations of the various states, they have also started organizing these festivals on a larger scale. And we find that how the people, those who are the tribal people, they are also associated in terms of producing the various crafts of their regions, and government is also making some kind of an effort to promote and protect these kinds of crafts. And in Maharashtra we find that there is a tribal festival in the Gavilgad fort of Vidarbha at Chikadala, and it is organized every year. And this area in Maharashtra is popular for its wildlife as well. And we find that a tribal museum and a botanical garden, they have been set up at this particular place, and various tribal dances such as Bihavu and Pola by Korkus or Ghorpad by Gonds, etc., on the tunes of the musical instruments prepared by these tribes, they are performed in this festival. So we find that how regional festivals which are associated with tribes, they have definitely played an important role in terms of conveying the tribal culture of these regions to the spectators or the audience. And the coming of the museum, as I told you, and the botanical garden, especially both of them, they have been also an important addition in this context. And definitely when one is talking about museum, then one can easily relate to such kind of museums, and it also becomes some sort of a perennial activity where an important setup is there, and the people, those who are visiting, they can see the artifacts which are being placed in the museums, and this definitely helps in spreading the kind of cultural space of the tribals as well, that how people, they can be more tolerant and how they can be more appreciative of the tribal art as well. And not only tribal handicrafts and art, but we also find that the various kinds of dances or the musical instruments, they are also very, very important from the point of view of the various tribes, and how these tribes, they take a lot of pride in terms of their own performances. And we find that not only this, but in other regions as well. For example, in Chota Nagpur area, especially in the Ranchi, in Jharkhand, a tribal festival which is popularly known as the Adivasi Mela is also held every year, and the Santals of this region, they celebrate their festival Sarhul, adhering to their traditional practices. So we find that such kind of festivals which are associated with the tribals, they definitely are an important asset to the country's culture. For example, the Banjara dance of the nomads, it is also being performed using the bright costumes, ornaments, scarves, and the vocal music. And when such kind of dances, etc., they are being performed, then we find that how all of them, they are able to not only entertain the audience, but at the same time it also provides them some kind of a window or a peep into the cultural space of these tribals. And we find that not only in these regions, but in other regions, we find that the tribal dances, drama, music, etc., all of them, they are being organized. And Gujarat tourism highlights the rich tribal culture of the Dangi Adivasis, and the fairs, they are generally referred to as melas. And we also find, when we talk about the various kinds of festivals, we many times see that how fairs are also associated with these festivals, and how many times these fairs, they are linked with the religious faiths, festivals, rituals, and the pilgrimage, and destinations, places, localities with the specific significance. And we find that how these fairs and these festivals, they are an intrinsic part of our traditional customs and our culture, and how they are carried on since earlier times. They also, many times we find that they are also reflective of the trading activities of the past, or they are the part of the local cultural patterns as well. And many times we find that these fairs, etc., they are being linked with the festivals, but we also find emergence of the new activity or the theme based fairs, which also command huge popularity as well. And such fairs include the fairs for the specific purposes, or certain products like cattle fair, book fair, craft fair, or the textile fair, etc. So we find that many times we find that the fairs, they are linked to the festivals, but sometimes it also happens that the new activity which has been started, and when this activity assumes such kind of a significance that people from different sections of the society, they are also going and enjoying such kind of facilities, and they are also able to command huge popularity in that particular place. And such fairs, when we talk about that how various kinds of fairs, they are not only promoting the trading activity in that region, they are not only talking about the cultural aspects which are related, but a lot of business or trading activities also taking place because of these fairs. For example, when you talk about the cattle fair or the book fair, we find that so many people, they go to the book fairs, and book fairs which are also happening in Delhi, and whether the National Book Festival book fair or the International Book Fair, and how people across the section of the society, because the books are available for different sections, and not only children but adults, all of them, they are visiting such kind of places to be the part of such kind of festivals. And we also find that a number of craft fairs, they are also being organized across India, and these craft fairs also provide a lot of information about the kind of crafts which are being made in India at different places. And then I also told you with regard to the cattle fair, that how the cattle fairs, they are also related to the economic aspects as well of that particular region. So all these kinds of fairs definitely have played an important role in that context, and how the people, those who are associated in the context of the fairs, they are also able to do some kind of a business when they are becoming part of these fairs. And at the same time, we find that the audience which is going, or the people, those who are visiting these kinds of fairs, they are also able to get those kinds of things or the artifacts in these fairs which are not available to them in a general case. So the regional kind of a factor becomes very important, where products from a particular region, they are available in a particular kind of a fair. And many times we find that such kind of an organization also provides a kind of boost to the business activity of that particular place. So from that point of view, these fairs definitely have a lot to offer, and not only from the point of view of culture, but also from the point of view of commerce as well. And then we find that these kinds of practices, whether they come into the realm of the religion or whether they are more secular in nature, but both of them, they provide some kind of impetus to the economic development of that particular region or area. And over a period of time, when more and more people, they get associated with such kind of fairs and festivals, then we find that the economic development of these regions, that also takes place. So it is also a healthy indicator in that sense, that we are trying to nourish these kinds of festivals for the economic development of that region as well. So in that sense, all these kinds of fairs and festivals definitely have played an important role, not only from the cultural point of view, but also from the point of view of the trading activity as well. And when one is trying to, in a way, see that how these kinds of traditions, they are remarkable in the Indian context, then we find that how these kinds of festivals can be seen in the framework of the religious fairs, or they can be either theme, activity, product based fairs. So all of them in different capacities have definitely played an important role, not only in terms of propagation of the Indian culture, but at the same time we also find the economic aspects have also been very, very important in that particular kind of a context. And when one is trying to see the various religious fairs, then we find that a number of religious fairs, they are being organized in India, where we find that huge number of devotees, they go and visit these kinds of fairs, and Kumbh is one of them, where we find that large number of devotees, they go and visit the Kumbh Mela. So we'll talk about these fairs in our next lecture, whether the religious fairs or the theme-based activity fairs, where we will not only try to bring about the nuances of them, but we will also talk about the important features or characteristics associated with them. Thank you very much.